Commander Minute Park felt his heart racing as he stepped into the massive alien council chamber. The crystalline floor beneath his military boots seemed to stretch endlessly upward, creating walls that disappeared into darkness above. The year 2157 had changed everything for humanity. After decades of dreaming about the stars, humans had finally cracked the secret of faster-than-light travel. Now Minute stood as Earth's chosen representative, facing something no human had ever seen before. Dr. Sujin Kim walked beside him, her specialized scanner humming quietly as it recorded every detail of this historic moment. She was Earth's top xenobiologist, handpicked for this mission because of her brilliant mind and steady nerves. Her scanner captured images and data from the hundreds of alien beings surrounding them in the vast chamber. The creatures before them defied every science fiction movie humans had ever made. Floating gas entities drifted through the air like living clouds, changing colors as they moved. Crystalline beings that looked like walking gemstones pulsed within a light that shifted from blue to purple to gold. Serpentine creatures with far too many eyes slithered across floating platforms, their scales reflecting the chamber's strange lighting. The chamber filled with sounds that no human throat could make. Clicking, whistling, humming, and tones that seemed to vibrate through their bones. The translation devices built into their helmets worked overtime to process the alien languages, though many sounds remained untranslatable. A towering figure approached them. The Zephyrian High Chancellor stood at least 12 feet tall, its body made of flowing silver metal and crackling energy. When it spoke, the sound resonated through their translation devices like thunder rolling across a mountain. Species designation, human. Your presence here is unexpected. Minute straightened his uniform and tried to project confidence he did not feel. Every diplomatic training session on Earth had prepared him for negotiations with other humans, not beings from distant stars. We come in peace, seeking membership in your Galactic Federation. The response was not what he expected. A sound rippled through the chamber that started low and grew louder. It took several seconds for Minute to realize he was hearing alien laughter. Hundreds of different species were laughing at him. Membership. The voice came from something that made Minute skin crawl. The Cerebrite Prime Mind was essentially a massive brain floating in glowing bioluminescent fluid. Its surface pulsed with what Minute now recognized as amusement. You misunderstand your purpose here, primitive ones. Dr. Sujin's scanner suddenly began beeping frantically. She looked down at her readings and felt ice form in her stomach. The energy signatures she was detecting from the assembled species were not curious or welcoming. They were hostile. Predatory. These beings looked at humans the way humans might look at useful animals. The Chancellor's metallic form shifted as it delivered news that would change human history forever. The vote was unanimous. All 847 species of the Galactic Federation have agreed. Humanity will serve as laborers and soldiers for the greater galactic good. Minute felt the words hit him like physical blows. What are you saying? Your creativity makes you useful, the Prime Mind explained with terrifying calm. Your natural aggression makes you dangerous if left unchecked. Slavery is the logical solution to both problems. The chamber erupted in sounds of approval from hundreds of alien throats, beaks, and vocal organs humans had no names for. The noise was overwhelming, a celebration of humanity's doom. You can't be serious, Minute whispered, though he could see in their alien faces that they were completely serious. 30 standard galactic days, the Prime Mind declared, its brain tissue pulsing brighter with each word. Submit willingly to your new role, and your species lives. Continue to resist, and face complete extinction. The choice is entirely yours to make. Dr. Sujin grabbed Minute arm, her face pale with terror. Her scanner was now showing massive energy buildups throughout the chamber. Weapons were powering up. They had walked into a trap. We have to go, she whispered urgently. We have to warn Earth. Minute nodded, his diplomatic mission now transformed into a desperate escape attempt. They began backing toward the chamber's exit, trying not to run and provoke an immediate attack. As they retreated, the Chancellor's voice followed them, filled with cruel amusement. Run, little humans. Your fear is amusing. You have 30 of your days to convince your entire species to surrender. Use that time wisely. The alien laughter grew louder as they reached the chamber doors. Minute and Sujin ran through the corridors leading back to their ship, their boots echoing off alien architecture that suddenly seemed designed to trap rather than welcome. Behind them, 847 species celebrated their unanimous decision. They had found the perfect solution to the human problem. Humans were too creative to ignore, too aggressive to trust, and too primitive to negotiate with as equals. Slavery would harness their useful qualities while controlling their dangerous ones. The aliens had made their first critical mistake. They assumed humans would react to overwhelming odds the same way other species had throughout galactic history. They expected panic, division, and eventual surrender. They had never encountered a species that became more dangerous when cornered. They had never faced beings who viewed impossible odds as merely another problem to solve. Most importantly, they had never threatened a species that would rather die fighting than live in chains. As Minute-Ho and Sejin's ship launched from the alien station and jumped to faster-than-light speed, racing back to Earth with news that would unite humanity like never before, the Federation began preparing for what they assumed would be an easy conquest. They would soon discover just how wrong they were about humans. President Nai Yoon felt the weight of every human life on her shoulders as she stood before the packed United Earth Assembly. The massive hall, usually filled with political arguments and slow debates, now held complete silence. Every representative from every nation sat frozen as they processed what Commander Minute-Ho Park had just told them. 30 days, she repeated slowly, her knuckles white as she gripped the podium. 847 alien species have voted. They want us to become their slaves in 30 days, or they will destroy our entire planet. The silence stretched until General Hyun-Woo Lee stood up from his seat in the front row. He was Earth's top military commander, a man who had spent his entire career preparing for wars between humans. Never in his worst nightmares had he imagined this. Madam President, he said, his voice heavy with the reality of their situation, their technology is centuries ahead of anything we have. Our best estimates say their fleets number in the hundreds of thousands of ships. We have less than 200 spacecraft that can even leave Earth's atmosphere. Murmurs of despair began spreading through the assembly. Representatives whispered to each other about evacuation plans, about hiding, about whether surrender might be their only choice. The mathematics of their situation seemed impossible to overcome. Then a clear voice cut through the growing panic from the back of the hall. Then we adapt. All heads turned to see Dr. Bomi Choi walking down the center aisle. The quantum physicist had won the Nobel Prize just 2 years earlier for her work on energy manipulation. She was young, brilliant, and apparently not ready to give up. Commander Park's ship brought back sensor data from their vessels, she continued as she reached the front of the assembly. We have detailed scans of their hull materials, their engine emissions, their shield frequencies. We can reverse engineer everything. General Lee shook his head. Doctor, even if we could copy their technology, we don't have time to build new weapons in 30 days. We don't need to copy it, interrupted another voice. Dr. Ji-Hoon Kang, the world's leading cybernetics expert, stood up from his seat. We need to understand it well enough to break it. Humans have one advantage these aliens clearly don't understand. We don't play by rules when our survival is at stake. President Yoon felt something shift in the room's atmosphere. The despair was changing into something else. Something dangerous and determined. Dr. Choi, Dr. Kang, how long do you need? She asked. Give us every scientist on Earth and every computer we can access, Bomi replied. We'll have answers in 72 hours. Within 6 hours, President Yoon had declared global martial law. For the first time in human history, every nation on Earth put aside their differences and worked toward a single goal. The United States shared military technology with China. Russia opened its research facilities to European scientists. Countries that had been enemies for decades suddenly became desperate allies. The Seoul Tech Institute was transformed overnight into the headquarters for humanity's survival project. Scientists, engineers, and computer experts from around the world flew in on military transports. The building that had once housed peaceful research now buzzed with activity 24 hours a day. Young Minute Seo was only 22 years old, fresh out of graduate school, when he made the breakthrough that would save humanity. Working with no sleep for 36 straight hours, he managed to crack the mathematical patterns behind the alien shield technology. The frequency that protected their ships from damage could be reversed and turned against them. Underground facilities across Earth became hives of activity. In former subway tunnels and abandoned mines, millions of people worked around the clock. Hyun-A Park, an aerospace engineer, led teams that designed new fighter ships using hybrid human-alien technology. These vessels were smaller and faster than anything either species had built before. Tae-ho Kim coordinated manufacturing efforts across 6 continents. Factories that had made cars and computers retooled to produce spacecraft components and weapons. Assembly lines that had been idle due to economic problems suddenly ran at maximum capacity, staffed by volunteers working without pay. Even children contributed to the effort. 12-year-old Sejin Choi, a mathematical prodigy, solved energy distribution equations that had stumped veteran scientists. Her calculations allowed human ships to use power more efficiently than the aliens had thought possible. The most remarkable thing was not the technology humans developed, but how they developed it. The aliens had made their first critical error when they assumed humans would react like other species they had conquered. They expected panic, political fighting, and social collapse under pressure. Instead, humanity did something the galaxy had never seen before. They united completely. Rich and poor, young and old, every race and religion worked together with a single purpose. The threat of extinction had burned away every petty difference between humans. By day 25, something unprecedented happened. Earth went completely silent. Every radio transmission stopped. Every satellite signal ceased. Every communication with the outside universe was cut off. The alien fleets gathering at the edge of the solar system received no surrender message, no pleas for mercy, no desperate attempts at negotiation. Just ominous, complete silence. Admiral Kyung-ho Jang stood in the command center of humanity's first space battle station, watching displays that showed alien ships moving into attack formation. He had been promoted from captain to admiral in less than a month, now commanding Earth's hastily assembled defense force. "They're expecting easy victory," he said to his staff officers, watching the confident alien formations approach. "They think we've given up." Through the station's windows, he could see Earth's new fleet hiding in the asteroid belt. Small, fast ships crewed by the best pilots humanity could train in 4 weeks. Ships built with technology the aliens had never seen combined in new ways. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "all ships report ready. Crews are in position." Admiral Jang smiled grimly as he watched the massive alien fleet approach Earth, completely unaware of what waited for them. "They wanted to enslave humanity," he said quietly. "They're about to discover what humans do when someone threatens their freedom." The 30th day arrived with Earth's sunrise, and with it came death from the stars. 10,000 alien warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. Each vessel was massive, the size of entire city blocks, bristling with weapons that could crack planets in half. Captain Dalsu-yo sat in the cramped cockpit of his fighter, watching the enemy armada through his modified visor. The alien fleet moved with perfect precision, ship after ship falling into formation like pieces on a chessboard. They flew in straight lines, maintaining exact distances from each other, following patterns that had worked for them across 1,000 conquered worlds. "Look at them," Dalsu muttered to himself. "So proud, so sure of themselves." Admiral Jang's voice crackled through the communication system to every human pilot hiding throughout the solar system. "All units, remember what we learned in training. These aliens have conquered hundreds of species, but they've never fought an enemy that refuses to follow their rules." Dalsu smiled grimly inside his helmet. The alien ships were beautiful and terrifying, but they moved like parade formations. Predictable. Ceremonial. Arrogant. The Federation fleet opened fire first, sending massive energy beams toward Earth's major cities. The beams were designed to disable planetary defenses and force immediate surrender. Instead, they struck empty space and abandoned buildings. Humanity's real defenses were not where the aliens expected them to be. "Now!" Admiral Jang's voice shouted across all channels. Yunhua Lim's fighter squadron emerged from behind chunks of moon rock and space debris, their small ships moving like angry wasps attacking a giant. The alien capital ships had been designed for long-range warfare against stationary targets and space stations. Their massive guns could not rotate fast enough to track the small, fast human fighters that darted between them. "Hit and run, just like we practiced." Dalsu shouted into his radio as his ship dove between spinning asteroid fragments. His fighter was a fraction of the size of the smallest alien vessel, built for speed and maneuverability rather than heavy armor. The aliens tried to adjust their formations, but their ships were too large and slow. Human fighters struck like lightning, firing missiles at critical systems before disappearing back into the debris field. Every attack was different, unpredictable, impossible to prepare for. But the real shock came when alien landing craft broke through Earth's atmosphere and touched down in major cities. The Federation had studied human military tactics and expected to face organized armies with clear command structures. Instead, they encountered something no galactic species had ever seen before. In Seoul, Sergeant In Jiu Park led a group of ordinary civilians through subway tunnels beneath the city. The aliens wore advanced armor and carried energy weapons, but they had no experience with the kind of warfare humans had been perfecting for centuries. Urban warfare. Guerrilla tactics. Fighting dirty. Park's team used improvised explosives made from household chemicals. They appeared from manholes and storm drains, struck hard at alien patrols, then vanished back into the underground maze of tunnels and sewers. The aliens, trained for formal battlefield engagements, found themselves fighting ghosts. They keep disappearing, one alien commander transmitted to his superiors. Our sensors cannot track them through these underground passages. Similar scenes played out in cities across Earth. Humans fought from rooftops and basements, using tactics the aliens had never encountered. They set traps in shopping malls, ambushed patrols in parking garages, and turned every building into a fortress. The decisive moment of the battle came high above Earth's atmosphere. The massive Cerebrite command ship, confident in its powerful shields, moved closer to the planet to coordinate the failing ground invasion. The ship housed the collective intelligence of 10,000 Cerebrite minds, making it the most valuable target in the alien fleet. Lieutenant Emma Young Cho, flying a fighter craft no bigger than a taxi, had been waiting for this opportunity. Weeks earlier, young Minute Seo had discovered a critical weakness in the alien shield technology. There was a tiny gap in their defenses, a frequency that could be exploited. Emma Young's fighter was so small that the massive command ship's sensors barely detected it. She flew directly toward the alien vessel, her heart pounding as energy beams from other ships lit up the space around her. At the last possible moment, she fired her modified missiles directly into the shield frequency gap. The weapons, no bigger than telephone poles, slipped through the alien defenses and struck the ship's neural center. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Cerebrite command ship, which had controlled Federation fleets for over 1,000,000 years, went completely dark. Its massive hull began tumbling toward Earth's surface, 10,000 alien minds suddenly silent forever. Across the battlefield, something unprecedented happened in galactic history. Alien communications filled with panic. Species that had conquered worlds without effort for thousands of years suddenly found themselves losing to primitives who refused to fight fairly. Retreat. All ships retreat. The surviving Federation commanders transmitted in dozens of different languages, their voices filled with fear and confusion. By sunset on the 30th day, the Great Federation fleet was fleeing toward the outer planets. They left behind thousands of destroyed ships and tens of thousands of dead aliens. More importantly, they left behind their confidence and their assumption that humans would be easy to conquer. Commander So Young-ha sat in Earth's command center, monitoring alien communications as the enemy fleet regrouped near Jupiter. The translations coming through her speakers filled her with grim satisfaction. "They're scared," she reported to Admiral Jang. "They're calling us impossible and unnatural. We hurt them badly." Admiral Jang nodded, but his expression remained serious as he watched the tactical displays. This was just their opening move. When they come back, they'll bring everything they have. So Young looked at the data showing human casualties and damaged cities, then at the readings from the alien fleet. "Then we'll be ready for them. But Admiral, next time we won't wait for them to come to us." The first battle was over, but the war had just begun. 6 months had passed since the aliens fled from Earth, and humanity had spent every day preparing for their return. But Admiral Jang made a decision that shocked everyone, including his own officers. Instead of building more defenses and waiting for the Federation to attack again, he decided humans would take the fight directly to the enemy. "We're not going to sit here like targets," he announced to his staff. "If they want a war, we'll give them one they'll never forget." Captain Ju-won Song stood on the bridge of humanity's newest warship, looking out at 11 other vessels that made up Earth's first deep space attack fleet. These ships were different from anything humans had built before. They were smaller than Federation vessels but faster, and they carried something the galaxy had never seen: human psychological warfare. The aliens had spent thousands of years fighting the same way, following rules and traditions that every species understood. Humans had never heard of these rules, and they did not care about alien traditions. Their first target was the crystal world of the Shardans, a species that looked like walking gemstones and controlled massive trade networks across 12 sectors of space. The Shardans had never been warriors. Instead, they enslaved other species by controlling their economies and making them dependent on Shardan trade. Engineer Minute Bae sat at his computer station as their ship approached the beautiful crystal planet. He had spent months studying captured alien technology, but his real expertise came from Earth's long history of computer hacking and cyber warfare. "Captain," he said to Ju-won, "their entire civilization runs on automated trading systems. Everything is controlled by predictive algorithms that calculate market values and trade routes. Can you break into their systems?" Ju-won asked. Minute smiled. "Sir, I can do better than that. I can turn their own computers against them." Within hours of entering Shardan space, Minutsook had infiltrated their networks using techniques that no alien species had ever encountered. The Shardans had built their systems to be efficient, not secure. They had never imagined that someone would deliberately crash their economy as a weapon of war. Every Shardan trade calculation suddenly became worthless. Their currency, which had been stable for centuries, collapsed in minutes. Their automated defense systems, confused by the economic chaos, began targeting their own trading ships as threats. The crystal beings panicked. Their perfect economic system, built over millennia, was destroying itself. They surrendered without a single shot being fired, begging the humans to stop the cyber attack. The second target proved more challenging. The Krextai were a warrior species with red skin, massive muscles, and a culture built around honor and combat. They had dominated their part of space for 5,000 years through ritual fighting and never losing a battle. Their greatest champion was a warrior named Thokvar, who stood 12 feet tall and had defeated over 300 opponents in single combat. When the human ships arrived, he challenged them to send their best fighter to face him in honorable battle. Lieutenant Colonel Unji Wu accepted the challenge, but she had no intention of fighting honorably. The ritual was supposed to begin with both fighters giving speeches about their courage and honor. Thokvar stood in the center of a great arena, his massive arms raised to the cheering crowds, beginning the traditional pre-battle ceremony. Unji shot him 3 times with a sniper rifle from a hidden position before he finished his first sentence. The arena fell silent. The Krextai stared in shock at their fallen champion. No one had ever broken the sacred rules of combat before. Honor is a luxury for species that aren't facing extinction, Unji announced to the stunned crowd. We're fighting to survive. Nothing else matters. The psychological impact of this victory spread across Federation space faster than their fastest ships. Species that had seemed invincible for thousands of years watched humans ignore every rule of warfare they understood. The humans fought dirty, used tricks, and showed no respect for tradition. But the most disturbing thing about humans was that they were not completely ruthless. They showed mercy to civilians while being utterly destructive toward military targets. This confused alien species that viewed warfare as either total victory or complete destruction. Dr. 16CHA, now in charge of helping liberated worlds, established the pattern that would define humanity's expansion across the galaxy. Free the enslaved, spare the innocent, destroy anyone who stands in our way. This approach was something the Federation had never encountered. Humans would arrive at a world, defeat the local military forces using tactics the aliens could not predict, then immediately begin helping the civilian population. They freed slaves, provided medical aid, and offered protection to anyone who wanted it. Within 18 months, something unprecedented happened in galactic history. 4 to 7 Federation worlds chose to leave their ancient alliance and join humanity's growing coalition. Entire species decided that freedom was better than the Federation's rigid order. Back on Federation Prime, the massive capital world that had ruled the galaxy for millions of years, panic was spreading through the alien leadership. The High Chancellor's silver metallic form flickered with barely contained rage as another sector commander reported that his worlds had defected to the human alliance. This is impossible, the Chancellor transmitted to what remained of the Federation fleet. They are primitive creatures. They should have surrendered within days of our first attack. The Prime Mind, the massive brain that had helped guide Federation policy for eons, pulsed with what humans would easily recognize as fear. Chancellor, our tactical models never accounted for this type of warfare. They fight as if their very survival depends on winning every battle. Because it does, the Chancellor realized with growing horror. These humans have nothing left to lose. We threaten to destroy their entire species, so they feel they must destroy us first. For the first time in galactic history, the mighty Federation found itself losing a war. The humans had turned the galaxy upside down by refusing to follow any rules except their own. The hunters had become the hunted. 2 years had passed since the aliens first demanded humanity surrender, and now everything had changed. The Second Battle of Federation Prime began as the sun rose over multiple star systems, but this time it was the Federation that was losing. Their core worlds burned under attack from humanity's liberation fleet, while their once mighty armadas scattered in retreat. Admiral Zhang stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at displays that showed over 300 human and allied ships surrounding the Federation's ancient capital world. The planet below had been built over millions of years, layer upon layer of crystalline structures reaching toward the stars. Now its inhabitants were fleeing in panic. Admiral, Commander Yi Jun-moon reported from his station, "We're receiving surrender messages from 17 different Federation sectors. They are all offering complete capitulation." The irony was not lost on Admiral Zhang. 2 years ago, humanity had been given 30 days to surrender or face extinction. Now the tables were completely turned. On the planet's surface, President Yoon walked through the same massive crystalline chambers where Commander Park and Dr. Kim had first learned of humanity's doom. The ceiling still stretched impossibly high, the walls still pulsed with alien light, but everything else was different. The surviving Federation leaders, beings who had ruled the galaxy for countless millennia, now knelt before her in the same council chamber where they had once condemned humanity to slavery. The Silver Zephyrian Chancellor's energy form flickered weakly, like a dying light bulb. The Cerebrite Prime Mind's bioluminescent fluid had dimmed until it was barely visible. President Yoon looked down at these creatures who had once seemed so powerful and terrifying. Her voice was quiet, but it carried through translation devices to species across dozens of worlds. "You wanted slaves," she said simply. "Instead, you got humans." The Chancellor spoke first, and its voice was no longer the proud, commanding tone that had echoed through this chamber 2 years earlier. Now it was pleading, desperate, broken. We surrender unconditionally," it transmitted through its failing energy form. "Mercy. We beg mercy from the Human Alliance." General Lee stood beside President Yoon, his hand resting on his weapon. He leaned close to her ear and whispered, "We could end them all right here, Madam President. Every Federation leader, every species that voted to enslave us. Complete revenge for what they tried to do." President Yoon studied the assembled beings who had once condemned her entire species to bondage. Some cowered in terror, expecting immediate execution. Others maintained their dignity even in defeat. A few watched her with what she recognized as genuine curiosity rather than fear. This was the moment that would define not just humanity's future, but the future of the entire galaxy. The choice between revenge and mercy, between perpetuating the cycle of violence or breaking it forever. "The Galactic Federation is dissolved," President Yoon announced, her words echoing through the vast chamber. "All enslaved species throughout the galaxy are hereby freed. All worlds may choose their own forms of government." The Chancellor's metallic form brightened with surprise. You spare us?" "Those who genuinely seek peace," President Yoon continued, "will be welcomed into the Free Worlds Coalition. Those who continue oppressing others will face human justice. The choice is yours to make." The transformation that followed surprised even humanity's closest allies. Species that had enslaved others for thousands of years began releasing their captives. Worlds that had known only dictatorial rule for millennia started experimenting with democracy and freedom. The galaxy's ancient, rigid hierarchy crumbled and was replaced by voluntary cooperation between equals. Dr. Sujin Kim, the same xenobiologist who had stood beside Commander Park during that first terrifying encounter, now served as director of interspecies relations. She established cultural exchange programs that allowed former enemies to learn from each other. Humans shared concepts of mercy and forgiveness, while aliens freely offered knowledge and technology that had been hoarded for centuries. The most remarkable changes happened on individual worlds. On planets where slaves had served masters for generations, former captives walked free and began building their own societies. On worlds where a single species had ruled through fear, multiple species began working together as equals. 5 years after the war ended, the final scene of this great transformation played out in a simple park in Seoul, Earth. Children from dozens of different species played together on the grass while their parents watched from nearby benches. Human children taught alien youngsters how to play Earth games like tag and hide and seek, while learning about distant worlds and strange customs in return. Admiral Zhang, now retired from active duty, sat on a bench watching a young Zephyrian child and a human girl working together to build elaborate sandcastles. The girl's grandfather was Dalsu Yo, the same pilot who had struck the first blow against the Federation fleet years earlier. "Hard to believe they once wanted to enslave us," Dalsu mused, watching his granddaughter laugh with her alien friend. Admiral Zhang smiled as he listened to the children's laughter echo across the park. "Maybe that's exactly why we won, Dalsu. They looked at us and saw tools to be used for their benefit. We looked at them and saw people who deserved to be free." Above them, ships from over 100 different worlds moved peacefully through Earth's sky. These vessels carried trade goods, students, and tourists instead of weapons and conquerors. The galaxy had become a place of cooperation rather than domination. Humanity had faced complete extinction and emerged victorious. But their greatest victory was not military conquest. Their greatest victory was choosing mercy over revenge when they had the power to destroy their enemies completely. The species that had voted to enslave Earth had indeed pleaded for mercy in their darkest hour. And humanity, in their finest moment, had chosen to give it to them. The galaxy would never be the same.